Hey, all, I just wanted to share a response that I think is important for people to just not forget about when they're reading their SSA letters, and they might be not sure if the SSA is listening to them. And this is, in this particular instance, um, this is about a person who had their phone perk interview, and that is that financial non-medical interview that generally occurs after you've prevailed on your medical workup for your SSI claim. Doesn't apply to SSD claims, only SSI claims. So in this case, apparently the SSA staffer, this would probably be the field office guys, told the claimant that he or she needed to prove that they pay rent. That's understandable. I mean, if you're getting it gifted to you, then you don't need that portion of the SSI payment. So this is how they determine whether you need the 1/3 for the housing assistance. And that's my terminology, not the official terminology when I say housing assistance. So the staffer apparently sent the claimant the SSAL 5061. So you could probably find that right online if you needed something like this. And it was the parent who was renting the space to the claimant child. So the parent, landlord, if you will, filled out the form. The claimant returned the form within 5 business days and did it personally. So I'm thinking he or she showed up at the field office. I don't always recommend that, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And then it says, when the notice of award packet comes, the benefit is just slightly over 600. This indicates that the person is still getting that 1/3 offset, as if he or she does not pay rent. So about 2 weeks later, the person returns to the SSA office to show the rent proof again to the agent, which is the field office staffer. According to the person telling the narrative here, the staffer entered the info into her computer, but the claimant is not given any explanation as to why his or her benefit is so low. Now, what does he or she do? First and foremost, and this was like my main drive, to appeal the determination that you are only eligible for 600 because you are getting free rent. There should be a line in your letter, and this is why it is so important, guys, to not just get a letter and read the first paragraph. You need to read it all the way through. If you see any verbiage with the word appeal, that means that you have a right to appeal, and you must do it within a certain amount of time, or else that right is gone. You can't just, like, this person understandably went back to say, hey, I showed you my rental agreement. Are you going to fix this? That's not an appeal. That almost like never even happens. It seems like, because I've seen this situation before. So you cannot blow that appeal deadline they give you. And I don't want to go out on a limb and say what it is, if it's 60 days or not, because there are some things that have a 30-day appeal. So you need to read through that, and then you need to appeal. And if you're appealing on paper with the form they say you can use, that you could probably download from the internet, if you can't appeal via the internet, which is often the case, you're going to be sending that. I would overnight it, possibly, if I had the money. If you're breathing down the neck of that appeal deadline, I would, if I had to, I would go in person. Particularly if you're running up on a deadline, and you bring a spare copy of your appeal, and you get it stamped as received. They have a stamp that says received by the SSA on so-and-so date, and you want your copy. So you have proof that you were there and it was appealed. It was filed. The original was filed, and you got the copy with the stamped received stamp on it. And you save that forever. Okay. Now, you can also, send your appeal certified return receipt, UPS, FedEx, what have you. Just make sure you have enough time so that if the US Postal Service, which to me is subpar, sorry, they could take 2 weeks to get it there. And that's if it gets there. So your tracking is only as good as, what they follow up with. So make sure you want to check that tracking every day. If you don't see it there within, well before your appeal deadline, I would be hoofing it down there. And I would be bringing that spare copy and saying, here's another copy of my appeal, and I need you to stamp it received here. They should do that for you. The reason, that is the biggest thing, because if you blow that appeal, you can never erase what it decided. Now it's going to be decided with SSI. It's only the day they decided it and before. So for instance, if this guy's been paying rent, or he was responsible for rent, but it was being loaned to him for the last 3 years while fighting the claim, documentation can also prove that he was under a loan agreement. He wasn't gifted that shelter for 3 years, in which case that entire back benefits of what would be, $900-ish a month for 3 years, that would be in his hand where he could do something good with his life with it. That would be now knocked down by a third, because they'd be knocking off a third. So you can cure that by producing your proof of the past. You might not have had that, and we've gone over this elsewhere. You may not have had a written lease agreement with mom who does that, but you might have had the verbal, and you both knew that, yes, you were going to be paying her back. She's getting up there in years, right? When you got back on your feet, whether that's because you got SSI, SSD, won the lottery, inherited, gambled and got a big, gambling winning, whatever the case may be, as long as you had an unconditional loan, verbally, that yes, mom, I'm going to pay you back. The expectation is that you would pay as, probably as much as you could when you could. Sometimes that might be like, you might not know the amount when you did it. It's just that you will come to that agreement on the amount later, depending on how much you have. You can do documentation and say, this is the verbal agreement we've had, and you both sign off on it. And they are kind of under an obligation, unless they have reason, not desire, reason, substantiated reason to find that to be not true. They likely will have to follow the evidence, and that's the only evidence they have. So don't forget that. And if you don't do that, and you blow that appeal to do that, because you go in instead and think you're gonna, smooth talk somebody with your actual accurate information and get a reasonable person on the other end, they can't do anything if it's already been determined and there's an appeal notice in your letter. Now, if you have to follow those directions, you have to do it by way of appeal. And appeals are not complicated. Very, you could do them in 5 minutes. So if you're going to get anything about the past done, that you're going to have to deal with that deadline. And feasibly, you want kind of like the new months to be fixed as well. But one good thing about the prospective months, if you do blow the back months because you decided not to read your letter, I don't understand that, then you can still always change the future. You could say, listen, this has been going on forever, but I understand it, whatever, you didn't appeal. This is how it is now, and still is. So change my benefits. My benefits should not be offset for a free shelter, because this is not a free shelter. I'm out now actually paying her $600 a month from that $600 you're giving me, which should be $943 in 2024. And we'll see what it is going to be in 2025. But my big take home was, do not blow an appeal deadline because you think you can get it done faster by going to the office and speaking to them. That is not an appeal. That's a nothing burger. Nada. So, all right, guys. I thank the viewer, 1Q, for sending that in. I did communicate with him about the appeal needs, but I wanted to put it out there because I think this happens to a lot of people, where you're trying to, you think being reasonable, as we are when we just talk to each other and get things fixed, would work. It doesn't. Everything's got to be done according to a protocol. And I understand that, because I'm a lawyer, you have to have these ways, but otherwise it would be helter-skelter and it would be a mess. So you need, when you get a letter, there's a reason for that letter, and there's a reason for everything that's in there. notwithstanding sometimes the errors that are in those letters, not too infrequently, but follow the letter. If it says appeal, circle that, highlight that, and get on the ball. And do not wait to the last minute. Do not wait to the last week. I don't think, get it done. And you make sure you have documentary proof that they received it, not just that you say I mailed it. I'm flabbergasted when people say, oh, I mailed my appeal. I'm like, all right, where's your proof of mailing it? Well, I didn't do that. Well, how can you even prove? Like, remember, the world is built on, you have to have evidence. It's not going to be just your word, because people lie all the time. All right. Anyway, I'll talk with you guys later. Drill that one home. Bye now.